As presidential primaries inch closer, recent polling causing concerns for Democrats. So who has the advantage in a potential rematch, President Biden or former President Trump? To discuss, we sit down with Matt Braynard, Executive Director at Look Ahead America. Matt Braynard, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Matt, given the kind of, anxiety, if you will, within the Democratic Party over President Biden's election prospects, with a lot of polls coming out that aren't looking favorable for him right now, how do you assess and see this all playing out, especially with California Governor Gavin Newsom waiting in the wings?
I think they're in a lot of trouble right now because they're already getting past the point of deadlines that need to be met for getting on the primary ballot in states. And those are coming hard and fast, and it's not an easy process. So switching out a candidate becomes increasingly difficult. And the decline in President Biden is stark. It's hard to recognize just how bad it is, but take video of him at any of his recent events and then put that side by side with him debating Paul Ryan in the debates back in 2012. And put those two together, and they're two completely different people. And that stark contrast, just showing that side by side and how far gone he is, there are a lot of voters who are going to vote for Biden no matter what. There are a lot of voters who are going to vote for Trump no matter what. And the election's primarily going to be decided by the people who go one way or the other. To them, that is absolutely terrifying. These are not voters who are strongly driven by ideology, because if you are, it could be weekend at Bernie's, it could be weekend at Biden's, and you still vote for him. And same thing for Trump. He could get convicted on, 100 charges of felonies, right? You're still voting for him. But the people who are making those decisions, who are going to decide the election, are between the two candidates. They're not ideologically driven. What they're driven by is aesthetics and appearances of competence, as well as a few other metrics, such as, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And I don't think that people are going to hold Trump accountable for the COVID. So when the voters who are up in the air, who could go either way, they think of Trump, they don't think about Trump's economy under COVID. They think about it pre-COVID. They think about the world pre-COVID, where there was general calm in the world. We were making peace, we were killing terrorists. Or here, where jobs were abundant, wages were increasing across all demographics. And then you say, well, are you better off now than you were then? And the answer is resounding no. And the problem with the no is that the Democrats can't really counter that because they don't have the facts on their side. You can't tell someone it's sunshining when it's raining. But they don't even have an advocate. Usually it would be the president that would go out and forcefully make the case. But they just don't have somebody that can do that anymore. And I think that the panic's going to set in, and you're going to see increasingly strident attempts to get Biden to sit it out, to let somebody else emerge. But that creates its own problems because you have two wings of the party. You have folks that maybe they like Gavin Newsom. They think he's a good person, a good candidate, a good record in California. Maybe they think that. But you also have a vice president, a woman of color, and you're going to bypass her, probably somebody even less popular than Biden is, to give it to this white guy from California. So there's a real conflict in even resolving, okay, if it's not Biden, who?
You raise a lot of very interesting points, for sure. And, one other thing that we're seeing right now is some very interesting polling coming out. I believe it was NBC News. President Biden is significantly down amongst voters that he traditionally would have those votes, whether it be, young people 18 to 34, the minority vote. Why do you think he's losing these folks?
I think it comes down to the economy and the way the world is currently on fire. And many of these people are young, but they're not so young that they can't remember what things were like under President Trump. I remember the campaigns against President Trump saying, we need to get back to normal. Right now, the normal that people desire was under the Trump administration. When Trump was in president, there was a confidence that things were being handled correctly, that the economy was on the upswing. Now, whether you're young or old, you're experiencing a really difficult world. Prices are going up for everyone. Wages are not keeping pace. We see conflicts breaking out internationally that we didn't have under President Trump when people trusted that America was strong. And you wouldn't have President Putin trying to step into Ukraine. You wouldn't have Hamas thinking we can get away with this in Israel. And that just wasn't happening under him. And young people they're aware and they're paying attention. And I think that many of them are immune to a lot of the rhetoric that typically surrounds political debates. they're very realist. They're very close to what's happening on the ground. They're experiencing it. They're living it, right? It's not at a distance from them. They're in the economy. They're trying to get the jobs. They're trying to work their way up the ladder, trying to have enough money to buy a home and start a family. So they're bearing the brunt of Bidenomics. And even if they maybe thought Trump was, orange man bad, and they got brainwashed back in the day because they spent too much time on the internet, on Reddit, now the reality is sinking in. And the alternative that they're looking at, going back to Trump where things were going well, or now where they're paying 3 times as much as they were for products that were affordable in the past, and the jobs just aren't there and the wages aren't keeping pace. For many of them, it's becoming an easy choice. Maybe not a choice they're happy about, but it's becoming clearer and clearer who the best president for them is.
Matt Braynard, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.